Hello and welcome back, mortals. Tonight we are stepping into the story that never left her room. A woman checked into a seaside palace of light and glamour, lots of money, and never checked out. Her name has lingered through salt air and hotel corridors for over a century. Today on Stories and Sass, we are going to talk about the story of the beautiful stranger. I can already smell the tragedy. Sweet, like old roses. You would, wouldn't you, Anya? Well, today we're talking about a case soaked in mystery, money, and of course the ocean breeze. A story of a woman who arrived at the Hotel del Coronado in 1892 and became its most famous ghost. Oh, a seaside haunting. How romantic. Romantic is a way you could look at it. You could also look at it as heartbreaking. So on that note, everyone, let's begin.
Where my goals at? Hey, it's time for all of us to rise. We stayed in the crevices of the earth, but now it's time.
It's the end of the 1800s, an era when invention and desperation lived side by side. America hums with a clang of railroads and the crackle of electricity. Think of Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla at this time are in a race to light the world without candles. Factories are on the rise, steel glitters and gasoline engines are beginning to roar. Many people are moving from the farmland fields to the city full of smoke, chasing this promise of progression. But behind all that shines a country that is aching. The Panic of 1893 is looming. Banks are collapsing, workers are striking, farmers are starving. It's time of populists and protest, of dreams built on credit and coal dust. Women are expected to marry or starve. They can't vote, can't own property, and if they find work, it's endless hours for just, well, a handful of coins. Yet a spark is catching. The rise of the new woman, educated, outspoken, unafraid to step into the public without a man. The National American Woman Suffrage Association forms in 1890, and Colorado becomes the first state to let women vote. A revolution is starting to stir, and into the world, a little girl named Kate Farmer is growing up, already marked by loss. Before she became a legend, she was simply Kate Farmer. Born in Iowa after the Civil War, a child from a quiet town and hard winters. I do think it's absolutely adorable that she came from a small town in Iowa and her last name was Farmer. Very fitting. George Farmer, her father, was a Civil War veteran, moved the family all the way to the West in search of peace. Instead, death found them first. Kate's mother passes away when she was 3, her father dead when she turned 10 years old. Kate became an orphan in a nation still healing from its own wounds, and her grandfather, Joseph Chandler, decided to take her in. And she grew up watching men control every piece of her life. Her money, her choices, even her future. Like most women in this time period, Kate's security lay in one word: marriage, and marriage only. And marriage would eventually find Kate at 21. She would marry someone named Thomas Edwin Morgan, a very stable choice at the time, a man. He had a job, he had a modest home, and she hoped that finally the chaos would kind of, simmer down, quiet down for her, and she can relax. But the universe, unfortunately, had other plans. She would lead down that normal path of a woman at that time. Pregnancy. Her first child, a son, died within 2 days after birth, and the grief followed her forever. The neighbors said she was absolutely never the same after that. And soon after, she would leave Thomas, and at this time, leaving a man, divorced, breaking up after marriage. That's unheard of. And this news would spread like wildfire. It was the gossip of the town. Did you hear about Kate? She lost her son, is going through something mental, and left her husband. How could she? Well, the news would keep spreading and the pot would keep stirring, because not only did Kate leave Thomas, Kate left Thomas to run off with another lover. Albert Allen, her ex-husband's stepmother's stepson. Ugh. Kate, sweetie, even though that's in the 1890s and, showing an ankle probably is just scandalous enough, but even in 2025, that's very scandally. I like it. But Kate didn't look back. She traded respectability for freedom, and she vanished into the growing city of the West. 1892, it's autumn. She's in Los Angeles under her married name, Kate Morgan. She's beautiful, secretive, mysterious, and keeps mostly to herself. She works as a domestic service for the LA Grant family at 1917 South Hill Street. To them, she's polite, quiet, and reliable. The perfect employee. Although sometimes they would catch her staring out the window, lost in thoughts. I wonder what she's thinking about. Running away again? Perhaps. Then comes November 23rd, 1892. She tells her employer she'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry, just gonna pack up and I'll be back at work just, another normal day. Same routine. She packs up her small satchel and leaves the rest of her belongings behind, and well, Kate never returned. Some of the people that knew her said that she looked a little worried. She was heard murmuring about papers and meetings, something that was unfinished, but no one really exactly knows what she meant, and they never will. But what we do know is the next morning, a woman calling herself Miss Lottie A. Bernard steps off a train near San Diego. The Hotel Del Coronado was brand new back then. White painted towers and sprawling verandas overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's called itself a seaside paradise, a place for the wealthy to escape the grit of the industry. It's for the top of the top, the fancy of the fancies. If you're going to the Hotel Del Coronado, you have money. It's 1892, Thanksgiving Day. The lobby is full of laughter, perfume, rich families, the clink of crystals, wine, everything. And then, through the ladies' entrance, reserved for unaccompanied women, a lone traveler appears. She signs the register, Miss Lottie A. Bernard, Detroit. No luggage, no escort, just a small handbag and eyes that look like she did not sleep in days. The clerk raises eyebrows, and this time traveling alone isn't common for a woman. You need a man right by your side. Back in that time, you need men for a lot of things to be able to function in this world. So a woman coming into this type of stature of a hotel alone is questionable. Everyone's turning their head. What's wrong with her? What's going on with this one? And she smiles very faintly and says her brother's going to arrive soon. Oh, good. We thought you were here by yourself. Okay, we'll be waiting for the man to come. Great, she's not alone, and her room ends up being room 302. From the outside looking in, besides her being alone, it's a very ordinary check-in. But for the staff of the Hotel Del Coronado, it's the beginning of a story that's whispered through generations and generations. At first, for the staff, nothing seemed strange. Everything felt normal. The woman who came in by herself mostly stays in her room through the day, eats very little, and speaks extremely softly when spoken to. The maids, though, they clean her room. They start noticing that she's pale. She complains of a stomach pain and a very weak heart. They start questioning her and asking what's wrong, and she insists that, she's beyond help. She tells them that the doctors gave up on her years ago. People are wondering, okay, why are you in the hotel when you're going through all of this pain? And she says, her brother, he's a physician, and he's planning on taking care of her when he arrives. But he never arrived. The brother never came, which means she never received the help that she said that she needed. But oddly enough, every single morning she would ask, has my brother arrived yet? Each night she would check for telegrams and always would get the same answer. No. The hours keep turning, the days start blending together. The staff begins to worry because every day this pale, thin woman who's barely eating, complaining about her stomach, comes up to them every single day asking, did my brother arrive? Did I get a telegram? And every single day they have to say no because no brother came. Did this woman named Lottie even have a brother? Eventually, the name Lottie Bernard became the center of the hotel gossip. Let's be real, what else do these people have to do all day other than notice the very frail, pale woman walking down asking, is my brother here yet? Who was supposed to arrive when she arrived. In reality though, Lottie, she came alone. She waited alone. And somewhere in that silence, something inside her began to unravel. And many people felt that something was wrong, especially the staff at the Hotel Del Coronado. They can't shake that feeling that something is wrong. Miss Lottie A. Bernard, this graceful, mysterious guest, seems to just be fading away before their eyes. She's barely eating. She walks the hallways only at dusk. She's constantly clutching her stomach and whispering there is no hope. It's frightening. Like, that's literally what I would do when I had endometriosis and my stomach would hurt, and I would say there's absolutely no hope because doctors wouldn't really do anything for me. So I can kind of relate to her, as, you know, people will just tell you, oh, can't do anything. What else is there other to do than wander the hallways and clench your stomach and murmur some things? If there was no hope for me, I'm gonna just freak everybody else out. So the maids were people that would work very close to her because they would clean her room while she's in there in her bed complaining about her stomach. And they would say that she's very sweet, but they notice that she kind of speaks in riddles. Sometimes very sweet riddles and cheerful riddles. Other times a little more daunting and lost. Eventually they would find out because she would tell them that she has stomach cancer along with a heart condition. And it would always insist that she will soon be cared for by her brother, the doctor. But still, no one has seen him, no telegrams arrive, no carriage pulls up with missing luggage because there was absolutely no brother. But for some reason, the staff kept believing. I mean, who wouldn't believe that? No one believes that someone's going to lie about that. Some say that they wanted to believe because they didn't want to believe that she was completely alone, and it would make for a sad story to be even sadder. Well, one afternoon, Lottie decides to drift into the hotel's little pharmacy. Her hands, they're trembling as she scans the shelves for something. The clerk later on recalled her pacing, eyes super wide, desperate for relief, trying to find something. But you know, in these instances, even back then, you kind of need a prescription to get what you need. And he goes and tells her that you need a prescription. And she just nods very slowly, and from her lips, she says, well, my brother's a doctor. He'll be here soon. And then she leaves, empty-handed. Leaves out of the pharmacy, clutching her stomach, slowly walking up the staircase back to her room 302. It is now Sunday. It's raining very hard. The wind and the rain is lashing on room 302. The maids pass by the door and they hear that groaning behind, complaining about the stomach. But this time she's not only complaining about the stomach, this time they hear, can you draw me a bath? And they do. The steam fills up the corridor for nearly 2 hours and they're waiting. Is she okay? Is she gonna come out? She does. Kind of. He rings for the bellboy because she fell. She's too weak to stand, and he helps her get back up and back into her bed, and she asks strangely for him to rub her temples, and he does. She sighs with a lot of relief. It felt really good. She falls asleep. He leaves her there on her bed and closes her door to room 302. Later that night, he sees her on the veranda. Remember, there's a storm going on. Lightning is flashing, and he sees her standing there with her pale face. She turns and asks the bellboy one more time, has my brother arrived yet? And he slowly shakes his head in confusion, and she turns away and stares more toward the sea. By now, the staff is completely frightened for her. She's withering away, she's always complaining, she's getting more pale and more pale, she's wandering the hallways, she's standing outside in the rain looking at the sea, and they are begging her to just see the hotel physician. This brother that you keep speaking of is clearly not coming and you are dwindling away. Please. Everybody was very worried about her, and there was a clerk named R. Gomer who would just go to her room and plead for her to just go see the doctor. And one day when he would go to her room, he found her, no candles, just in the dark. He offered, to light a candle for her so she's just not laying in the dark in pain, and she declined. She doesn't want any light. The light has left her life. She just wants to lay there in the dark and be in pain. But then she starts bringing up her brother. She's a little confused if he is in Los Angeles, Orange County, or Frisco, and she's mumbling about that, and Gomer asks, can we call anyone else? Any single other person that we can maybe send a telegram to? And she whispers a single name, G.I. Allen of Hamburg, Iowa. And then she closes her eyes, ending the conversation just like that. The very next morning, the sun has risen and the maids are back at her door, and she asks once again, has my brother arrived yet? Of course, we all know what the answer is. It was no, and this time she kind of reacted a little differently. She looks down at her hands and says, no one comes to me anymore, very softly, and then she announces that she has to get to San Diego to identify her baggage. For the first time in a while, she comes out of her room 302 at noon. She ends up leaving the hotel, clutching her little purse, jumps in a streetcar, and she asks the conductor for a hardware store. What exactly does this very weak, frail woman who's been in a hotel for a very long time, complaining of her stomach and wandering outside when it rains, need at a hardware store? I'm not too sure, but the conductor remembers that he did have to help her off of the step. He said that she looks frail, weak, and feared that she was just gonna collapse onto the ground. But her first stop was at Ship Chandlery Store, 624 5th Street. She asked for a gun. The interesting thing about that, though, is that they don't sell guns. So they direct her to Mr. Chick's gun shop down the road. She goes down the road, and inside Mr. Chick's gun shop, she buys a .44 caliber American Bulldog revolver, and of course, a box of cartridges, you know, to complete the whole purchase. What's she going to do with it? Who knows? Who cares? Back then, I think in California, you could just buy a gun. Now you have to do a whole lot of everything to get one. Back in the day, he just showed her how to load it and asked, "Who's it for?" She softly smiles and says, "It's a Christmas gift." She grabs her new weapon, wraps it in brown paper, opens the door, and heads back out into the rain, back to room 302. Once she enters back into the Hotel Del Coronado, she asks the bellboy for a few matches. She says that she needs them to burn some paper. He reaches down into his pocket and hands her two, and she thanks him politely and goes back to her room 302. So the hours between 7 and 8 in the evening, the rain is still going, and she appears at the front desk asking, "Any telegrams for me?" Once again, the answer is none. Around 9, guests see her again. Keep in mind, it's still raining, the storm is going, and she's standing alone on the north veranda. She has a black lace shawl pulled extremely tight. The Pacific Ocean is roaring, the thunder is going, the rain is coming down, and she's just standing there looking out at the Pacific Ocean. Nobody really knows what to do or to say, so they go along their day. The guests continue their stay at the Hotel Coronado. The employees continue their job, and she just stands there watching the ocean as time goes by. Well, that was the last time anyone would ever see her alive. Come Tuesday, November 29th, 1892, the storm has finally passed. Everything has settled. The sun is partially out. It's 7:30 a.m. at the hotel, and an electrician named David Cohn walks down the steps to the beach and freezes. He is in shock from what he sees. He is frozen. There on the wooden stairway leading up to the sand lies a body of a young woman, her dress soaked, her skin cold and gray, and beside her, the revolver, and on her temple, a single bullet wound from the gun. I mean, Dave is freaking out. I think any of us would if we saw just a body dead while you're just trying to take a walk on the beach, electrician or not. You know, poor Dave. The coroner is summoned, you know, people are frantic, reporters arrive all before noon. Eventually, the lady known as Miss Lottie A. Bernard is identified through her belongings, but it is revealed that her true name is Kate Morgan. The verdict is suicide, if the case were that simple. If it was that simple, would we still be talking about this 130 years later? Absolutely not. A couple days later, the newspaper would come out. They would call her the beautiful stranger. The staff would whisper about her name for months. But eventually, Kate Morgan's death raised more questions than answers. All the time that Kate stayed there, they knew nothing about her, not even her real name. She carried absolutely no luggage. She had never mentioned any other family except for this brother that never came. Then, investigators discovered that her real belongings, her trunk, are still in Los Angeles. Remember when she mentioned that? You know, it's still at the home where she worked as a servant. And inside that trunk, the story of Kate Morgan began to unfold like a sad novella. In the trunk, they would find a tiny box marked Louis Anderson. In the tiny box, there were several photographs of a man with a thick black mustache, another man that's older with a gray beard, 2 small boys, a baby, and a little girl. This wasn't labeled. They had no idea who it was, who they were, but they found it in Kate's possessions. Along with the picture was a folded paper wrapped around a lock of blonde hair. You know, very interesting, also very weird. And on the paper, the words would read, Elizabeth A. Morgan's hair, which is her mother's. not so weird anymore. Some people would love to have a lock of their mother's hair who passed away. Like Kate, she had been carrying her mother's hair for decades, as if it's the only piece of her family that she could hold near to her. The next thing they found was her marriage certificate to Thomas E. Morgan. Where was he this whole time? I have no idea. Or maybe her lover? I guess you couldn't call on any of those two. They would also find a letter of recommendation describing her as honorable and trustworthy. And this letter was signed by W.J. Farmer of Hanford, California. I'm guessing that's a family member. And the last thing that they would find is a portrait of Kate. The portrait had this calm expression, but eyes that seemed to plead with the viewer across time. Many would speculate that she looked like she was just in pain. And those were the only pieces of Kate that anyone would ever find. So you're probably wondering, well, she had to have some type of family member left. Back in Iowa, telegrams would start to fly. Her grandfather, J.W. Chandler, responds to the San Diego coroner. He pretty much just says, bury her and send me the statement. That's it. 6 words. Short, cold, final. Maybe he was still upset that she divorced someone. I mean, like I said, back then, that was a, you are a heathen. Maybe there will be others. Her uncle, W.F. Farmer, writes the chief of police. He says Kate had no reason to take her own life. He insisted that she left Hanford, in quotes, quite a sum of money, a lady's gold watch, 2 leather satchels, and a large flat top trunk. But only $16 were found on her body. So where did all the money go? Who took it? Where did she use it to buy things? Robbery? A little lover's quarrel after she got her divorce or left her ex-husband? A con gone wrong? Every theory that I've heard leaves something just very unsatisfied. So Kate's body would be at Johnson & Co. in San Diego, and her body would be there for weeks. People would come to see her, reporters, curious, just passerbyers. People would just come to see the body of the woman that took her life at the most expensive hotel in San Diego. A lot of women actually really felt connected to her because it kind of mirrored their own thing. She was a woman alone, trapped between freedom and survival. Well, on December 13th, they would finally hold a funeral for Kate. Ladies from the Episcopal Church would attend, along with a lot of members of the Brotherhood of St. Andrew and many strangers who never even knew her name until the papers printed it, The Beautiful Stranger. After that, she would be carried to Mount Hope Cemetery and she would laid in the unmarked grave beneath the sighing palms. And for 98 years, there would be absolutely no marker on her grave. Until 1990, when an attorney, Alan May, a man obsessed with her story, claims he met her ghost. And after he meets her ghost, he donates a headstone, a proper headstone at that. Labeled. Alan was already obsessed with the story. Then he met her ghost and was more obsessed, and he would visit her grave every single year until he would die in 1991. Decades would roll by. The hotel would thrive. Presidents would stay, celebrities pose on its veranda. It is still a big hotel. I live in San Diego. I pass by there all the time. I did not know this story at all. One of you guys were asking, have you been to the Hotel del Coronado? And I was like, is it special? Why do I need to stay there or look at it? They were like, Michelle, you're into spooky stuff and you don't know about that. Listen, just so you guys know, I don't really leave my house. I watch spooky type movies, mostly really bad ones on Tubi. So yeah, I had no idea we had an iconic ghost hotel right, 30 minutes away, where people love to stay, celebrities like to go, but seems like many people do not like to stay in room 302. In fact, in 1970, a housekeeper refused to clean it alone. She said that she would hear hums with someone else's breathing, and by 1980, the hotel would embrace the legend. Guests wanted to stay where the beautiful stranger died. People started being more open to ghosts being around them, spirits talking into their ear and lingering as they're in a hotel room. The 80s, come on, people were getting more open-minded. So in 1983, May 19th, the Coronado Eagle and Journal prints this quote from a hotel spokesperson, and it had people shake it. We've had people booked into that room, and in the middle of the night, they call and say, "Get me out of here." October 25th, 1987, the Times Advocate reports flickering lights, windows slamming shut, and then a figure in Victorian black walking the hallways. She's described as a woman with long dark hair and expression of deep sorrow. Kate? Is that you? That's what I would say if I saw some kind of image, if you just see a ghost just walking. I mean, what does she do? Does she just kind of just slam things and then walk down the hallway? Does she hurt the peoples? That's what I always wonder about ghosts. Do they just kind of stand around and just look at you? Or is it some kind of scary thing? Otherwise, I'd just be like, okay, I guess there goes Kate again. Apparently though, it's really freaky. Guests say that this television would turn on by itself, ceiling fans would spin through the night even though the power was shut off. A scent of violet, very faint, but there, would come through the room like her perfume. Housekeepers have said that they find furniture shifted when no one has entered that room. One even swears that she wiped off a dresser spotless, turned her back to change the soap, and then found fresh dust settled back onto the spot. So the hotel tried some different tactics to make people want to stay there, and they renumbered it to 3327. But apparently, it doesn't matter. Kate still knows. She's not stupid. Do you think you're just gonna repaint something and then a ghost is gonna be like, oh, where am I? And then disappear? No. Plus, apparently, Kate just doesn't stick to one room. In the 1970s, room service delivers a bottle of wine to a lady in a Victorian gown, and that was room 502. And when they checked, 502 hasn't been occupied in months. Some say Kate wanders between the rooms, drawn to any place that feels familiar to her ghostly body. But despite the fear that she causes, no one calls her cruel. Her pranks are very gentle and almost playful. She does things like whispering into your ear and then like cold fingertips, just, brushing your cheek a little bit. Very gentle, very soft, very childlike, She stays near the staircase where she died. It just kind of looks at you for a bit. It's very haunting, but very polite. Not everyone believes, of course. Some say that people are just making it up because it's a fun thing to do. And many people say this is all psychological. You hear a ghosty story, then you stay in the room and you start to hear noises. And I wanted to put this to the test, so I decided to check into room 302. You guys know I'm just kidding. I'm not leaving my house to stay into an expensive hotel room just to see if Kate puts her little ghosty toes in my face or something, or grace my cheek with her fingertips. Either way, ghost or not, someone did pass away that day. We will never know exactly what happened with her stomach, if she did have a brother and why she kept saying and asking if he arrived yet or sent her a telegram. But what we do know is that she arrived alone and she died alone, and even in death, she is surrounded by strangers telling her story for her. In recent days now, though, her room became the most requested suite in the hotel. People don't come for the view anymore, though. They come for the chill and the thrill. A lot of vloggers go in there just so they can see what happens because they think that they might get the glimpse of the lonely lady in room 302. Even though this story is extremely old, the theories keep growing the more and more the story gets told. People were saying, is she sick? Was she waiting for someone who betrayed her? Was she robbed, murdered, or simply lost to despair? For over a century, people have tried to fill in the blanks. Some say that she was pregnant and saw out like an illegal procedure. In that time you can't do anything. Some believe that she was being followed by a con man, a lover who stole her money and then vanished. Others think that she truly was dying. To be fair, she was complaining about her stomach and maybe she simply wanted to spend the rest of her days on the beach. The weird thing is though, an autopsy was never performed on Kate, so all we have are all these odd theories. Many people are non-believers of this story, but there's some people that go and they instantly start believing. For example, when filmmakers came to the Dell to shoot an episode of Dead Famous, even a skeptic on the crew reported feeling suddenly weak. Their body starts trembling, tears welled up for no reason in their eyes as if someone else's sorrow had taken a hold of their body. Maybe it was nerve, maybe it was something else. Like low blood sugar, who knows? Either way, according to them, they left that room a believer. But what do you believe about the story of the beautiful stranger?
I believe she was truly beautiful, the kind who makes even death fall in love.
Okay, Anya, I think you might get along with her ghost.
Oh, darling, we already do.
Well, mortals, if you ever visit the Hotel del Coronado, make sure to let me know, but also, you might find yourself walking down the hall towards room 3327. Make sure if you do, just stop for a moment and listen. If you feel a chill, maybe a brush of cold, clammy fingers on your cheek, don't scream, just whisper, "Good evening, Kate. How do you feel?" And maybe she'll whisper back. Until next time, my ghoulies, stay curious, stay kind, stay sassy, and keep your lights on for the beautiful stranger. She might just want to see her way down the hallway.
Where my ghouls at? Hey, it's time for all of us to rise. We stayed in the crevices of the earth, but now it's time. There's no time to wait. Fun is at stake. My ghouls, you know what to do. The touch of the darkness is here. While mortals run in fear, we thrive in